This is Mark Langley's Horsemanship Podcast, a podcast helping people to understand their horses better, to provide solutions in a calm, connected way. I'm Jenny Langley, and with me, with his wealth of expertise, is Mark Langley. This week, training tips to help an off-the-track thoroughbred who pins her ears and kicks out in groundwork, and help for a young foal who is learning to have her feet picked up. Mark, let's go to the off-the-track thoroughbred first. This question has come from Nicole in Australia. This off-the-track thoroughbred has only finished her racing career last year. She had a lot of head and trust issues that they've been working really well through. But Nicole is noticing that if she asks her mare to walk around her, she gets really defensive and goes on the attack, biting and kicking. Also, her groundwork involves ears back, biting and kicking out. Nicole, understandably, doesn't feel safe. Question for you is, how can Nicole best approach this to get the calm, soft and relaxed horse while doing groundwork?
Just a couple of things before I get onto the subject of the groundwork. Something with the off-the-track thoroughbreds, sometimes it's good to, to think about a bit of detox time, getting spelled and just being out in the paddock and, with company and just kind of getting all that sort of, racehorse kind of stuff. It won't always go out of their head, the memories are always there, but just give them time just to sort of relax and let all that chemicals and all stuff just settle in their body and their brain, settle down and get into a bit of just a happy routine. I think that's important. You may have already done that, but just think about giving her some months off to just sort of detox, I suppose. And it'd be and the only thing you might want to do in that detox period, just to sort of have some sort of contact with them, is just go out, maybe catch the horse and just let them go and don't do a great deal with them. Just to have nice, human interactions that aren't too bad. But in the long run, you can make nice connections out in the paddock. You can sort of just spend some time at a distance and just see how she is around you. But the biggest thing, I think, also is when you get her into work or get her back into training, is how they process pressure and the bad feeling that they had around people. And that's the one that really kind of makes things difficult. So if you've given her that detox, you've just gone out in the paddock, you've just been around and just been a person around, so she sees you in a different light, and you've done all that. She's making a reasonable connection with you. Then when you go into sort of working on a halter, by the sounds of it, she had a lot of head trouble. You've just got to work on things a bit more separately. So the two things I was thinking when I read the question was, when you're working with her, don't work close to her when you're operating her with pressure. Try and give her her own space to be in and your own space, which means you might have to carry a flag and just sort of say, okay, we've got a boundary of 3 meters and you can be 3 meters out of my space, so she can stand quietly out of your space and you're not in her space, sort of fiddling with her too much. And maybe give yourself a couple of weeks of leading where she's leading at 3 meters away from you. And the other thing is getting her to lead up until she really follows that lead softly, and you don't have to do the sending around or anything like that. Just make sure she can stay at 3 meters and she can lead up, and until she can jog up with that lead and stop with the lead and jog up with the lead and stop with the lead, all at a distance, until she's a lot softer and there's not a lot of poking and prodding. What I mean by poking and prodding, when you start doing all these different things with horses, lead pass, do a hindquarter yield, back up, and if you're learning the technique as well, you can be not offering your horses enough clarity. So, and then all of a sudden you get frustration and you get all that sort of thing. So, pick a superpower, get it, do it until she understands it. And it's just that, this is my space, be aware of my space. So all she has to do to understand your space is be able to back out of your space. So which means you might have to sort of wave the flag a bit and get her to step back so she knows visually where that space is and she can step back if she saw the flag or something. But you're not like chasing her or sending her. You're just saying, hey, the flag's just here, that's my space. Like you're sweeping that space out quietly until she knows that, that's the space that she's not to come into. And then you just walk around and she wanders around and she kind of becomes very aware of that space.
So lots of straight line leading as opposed to trying to get her to go around you then, to make it more simple.
You sometimes want to make it simple to get the head brace out of them. So lead forward, be aware of my space. Lead forward, be aware of my space until, she jogs up really nice, but then you can just sort of stop, and she'll stop at that 3 meters outside your space, so she knows, so she's just got more responsibility. And then you can slowly get her to come in a little closer each time, and then start to maybe put her off to the side a little bit and stuff like that. But when you're trying to do leading by lessons and all that, and the horse has got a lot of head brace, it's just a wrestling match, and they get angry.
Yeah, because also, like you said, when you're doing the leading by, you are actually quite close to them, and so if they're upset with people being too close to them because they've got the bad memories of people and pressure associated in one, then I guess this is where you got to say let's make it separate. So, and also if you've got a really long lead rope and you're leading up, it's easy to do quite a big arch of a circle, isn't it? Because you can do a smaller one and they do a much bigger one, which makes them trot, like you're saying, to trot up.
If you do that, but that is there's quite a technique to that. That's
technical, okay.
So if you were on a long rope, it would be a little hard to do that. But as I say, if she's leading up and stopping and leading up and stopping with the rope until she's not fighting, she can't be angry at you because you're at a distance. You're not right in a space, right underneath her chin, having an arm wrestle with her. So, she can't bite, she can't do anything because she's away from me, and I make it really I don't like it being personal. I don't like the horses, So it's more like you're listening to the rope, and I'm just standing over here.
Okay, and I'm interested about this, the personal space, and also what's happening with her ears and her kicking, and obvious signs that she's not happy about something. What's the correlation with that and the racing industry? Can you just...
Well, the thing about it is you got, sometimes a lot of different people have put their hands on the horse. They're in a high stress environment. They're getting jagged a lot. Sometimes people are jagging them because the horses are pushing and not sure where to be. So
they jerk on the head.
So they're jerking on their heads, and they're not really jerking on their heads to get any clarity. It's just to say, stop doing that, stop doing that. And then, sometimes in the, the exercising, they put them in round pens and just get someone to send them around in circles to get some, some trotting in each day and stuff like that. So there's all these things that the horse are just going, I just don't want people near me anymore,
Oh, I don't want to be doing that
don't want to be doing that anymore. And so that's why, as I say, and also that they're exposed to so much stuff, but just about all the racehorses that I get don't understand any of the little things properly. Like, I've never had one that knows how to lead amazingly, not even sort of half good. They're always never lead that well. There's got a lot of head brace in them, so they've got a halter on them that don't really understand properly, and they don't feel comfortable in it. So that's like, you may as well just carry a brown snake on your head all the time, and every time it wriggles you get a fright.
Have you found with off-the-track horses that they're more comfortable with a rider on the back than they are with someone on the ground?
Well, they can be, because sometimes when they had a rider on their back, they just had those strong forward thoughts and they were going forward. Where they're on the ground, they've got people coming at them, at their eyes all the time, and they can get a bit defensive and angry about it. But then you still got a horse that maybe when you ride them is just like, got tunnel vision when you ride them, and you've got to hold them back. So sometimes less aggression when you ride, not all the time, but a lot of times, less aggression when you ride, because it's the conflict they're having of the people coming at them all the time that they get angry about.
So does this go back to what you were saying at the start then as well, where you just need to maybe take things back to the beginning, assess them of what they're like with nothing on them, coming up to them and just seeing,
At Liberty, one of the other things you do is you put her in a yard, like once she's had a bit of detox, you just put her in a yard, you just walk around, you just gently walk up to her and just walk up with a steady rhythm and just put your hand out softly. She might sniff, she may not, doesn't matter. And then just walk away and come back in again. And just show her that your approach is not there to grab her and threaten her. You can go down the listening approach where she sort of gets a hard eye and you stop and step back, and that can soften them a little bit. But you only really want to do that a little bit, because they'll think when I get a bit anxious, you're going to stop. So you don't actually fix that I'm coming to you in a hurry, but that hurry is not a threat. So you've got to show that I can come to you in a hurry and it's not a threat. And that'll get her to trust you more, because she's like, when people are in a hurry, they're always, pushing me with this, around in a circle, or they're doing this and that and the other. So I don't like it. I feel threatened. But so you have to work her through that. But yeah, and that's just at liberty, where you just, don't expect anything of it. Touch and go, touch and go. If she's getting better, put a halter on, take it off, walk away, and just go back to some basic young horse stuff.
So have a look at the runaway mare videos. That might be quite interesting for you, because that was a mare that had a lot of the liberty done. Mark did a lot of liberty training with her with the touching. I would like to know how you have found these off the track horses. How forgiving are they? How quickly does it take for them? I suppose it changes with each horse, but in general, for them to sort of move on from the expectation of a racing environment to a different expectation, and one that has less pressure and less problems associated with it.
It's interesting. And this is not, it's not an ideal situation, but sometimes when you get a young horse that seemed to have had the perfect life, or what the human thought was the perfect life, and sometimes that's not the perfect life, like never been challenged, always been safe around people, always felt comfortable, those ones can struggle with, the step up to say, hey, can you offer more, because we're going to ride, we're going to do things. It's not just sort of, pat and, everything's nice. So those horses can get a bit like, hang on, I need to work. Is that wasn't in the deal, and they can get grumpy about it and stuff like that, and defensive. When you get a racehorse, some of them are in a really bad situation. So sometimes a lot of those racehorses, when you give them a fair deal and they're like, oh, this is all right, it's almost like they go, thanks. This is easy. I'll do this because that's way better than what I had to put up with before. So it's almost like being soft and understanding things. They go, oh, this is really good. That's great. Like,
someone's listening.
I'm really soft. Not all of them. Some are really troubled, but a lot of them just go, oh, geez, this is good. And they're just really friendly horses, and they appreciate that they can be have their own, personality, and they appreciate clear boundaries and actually understanding things. So they're like, oh, this is really good. Whereas the horse that had everything good is going, hang on a minute, walking up the paddock away from my friends. That's like, that's like doing 100 meters of fencing in one day. That's terrible. Where's the union? So you get that sort of situation sometimes. So yeah, the race horses have seen worse. So as soon as you offer them better, they really notice it.
And once you get those thoroughbred puppy dog eyes, that's one that's very hard to resist those, I guess. Going from an older horse to a younger horse then, this question comes from Jules from Australia. She has a 12-week-old filly who needs a trim. Now, she's been following your foal videos with Mr. T on the online membership, and she's been working towards leading and picking up its feet. She got someone to come in and trim, which she thinks could have been a big step backwards for the foal, though, because the trimmer insisted on a hold it until she stops fighting approach. So Jules understands that she's going to have to do a bit of backpedaling and some retraining because of what's happened, but she has a very specific question for you. She feels that her foal doesn't react in the same way that Mr. T does. So Mr. T, when you were teaching him to pick up his feet, would move and tell you if he wasn't comfortable when you're showing people how to sort of get around that. What she's finding with her foal is that she has a tendency not to move at all. So she's wondering if she could be in more of a shutdown state. And if she is in a shutdown state, then she doesn't want to push her and I guess put more pressure on her because she's not reacting. So she'd like to know, how does she know? What does she look out for to know that if she is in a more of a shut down state, rather than moving away or reacting?
It is quite common that there's foals, and just one that he's a bit older now, that when I first handled him recently last year, time flies, he was very, I noticed he was very, I'm very cautious, I'm not really sure, or I'm going to go still. And then if something was a little bit too much of a bother, he'd go, Mum, where's Mum? And then he'd panic and go, I don't like this, I've got to remove myself. So he was a safety seeker. That's what I call them. So he would go, I'm not going to think, too much, I'm going to seek safety. Where's my last place of safety? My mum. And some horses do that, when they're babies, they're like, some are constantly wriggling and searching. Some are just freezing for a little bit and going, I don't know what to do. Then if something happens, they're like, oh, I've got to get out of here. And that's probably what happened with the trimmer come, is a bit too much time holding or whatever. What your responsibility is to, if you've had the horse just lightly picking up its feet and then the trimmer comes to trim, you've only put the horse to this level and the level got higher, but the horse didn't know what to do. So it is our responsibility to have the horse at the level that the trimmer needs it to be when they come to do their feet. Some trimmers do just a little bit, put their foot down, pick it up, do a little bit, put their foot down, and they're very good with, young horses that are a bit, sensitive. Others will expect them to hold their foot and be able to be held and yield. Okay.
So this is let's just bear in mind, this horse is only 12 weeks old.
Mm-hmm.
How much is it right to expect too much of it at that age?
Well, 12 weeks old is young, and I would tend to, at least trim a little, and when it gets a little sort of nervous, put it down before it pulls away.
Mm-hmm.
So the horse learns a bit more graded exposure, because there is risk in holding young horses' feet that you're pulling them and wrenching on them and they hop around and stuff like that. You can get them a little bit better at understanding pressure. So something I add in a bit more now with all my foals, especially because I want people to understand it, is there's a little bit of stress. How are you going to react to that, opposed to just making the leading process quite easy? And you might see it in some of my leading videos where I wave a flag, the horse goes, I'm not sure about that, and it wriggles into the halter. And I think if your horse is shutting down a little bit and getting a bit sort of like, I just won't do anything, and then if it gets too big, it's going to panic. Then basically in the leading, you want to get it to make an adverse reaction and then fix it, not just make all these things go, oh, this is easy, this is okay, this is easy, this is okay. You need to kind of create a little bit of an adverse reaction in a horse, not enough to make him, go full noise and climb yard panels and stuff, but enough to them to go, I'm unsure, and then they can recover through pressure through the lead rope or something like that. And that's really important. And then you can, once they recover a little bit, you can make that adverse reaction just slightly bigger. An adverse reaction would be like if a bucket fell off a rail, a horse spooks. What does it do? Does it spook and go, I'm out of here, or does it follow the feel of the halter? So you create those little, I don't know what to do, I'm going to react, and it goes, oh, there's a boundary, and then it recovers again and follows the feel.
Okay, so that sounds like all sorts of leading kind of scenarios.
It goes back to leading, but that same thing will happen through leading the feet. And the other thing I suggest is pick up, put a rope around your horse's legs, a folded rope, so it's not sort of hitched up onto their foot in case they panic and run off with a rope. You can just have a long rope that you put and start to lead the feet, and pull the feet and get the horse to rebalance itself and go, oh, something's caught on my foot a little bit, I've got to rebalance a little bit, until they're going, oh, I'm okay with this, until you can pull the foot with a rope and they'll actually hold it, and then you can put it down with a rope. So they've got to learn to rebalance, they've got to walk a bit while there's someone pulling on their foot, and then they learn to lead with their feet. You can do that with all feet, and that's after they've had a few little adverse reactions in the halter, like you might have done something with a flag where they spook a little and then they recover. And then once
you're creating a pullback scenario.
That's the leg, and then you put the foot rope on, and you just go, go down their legs and put it just just below the fetlock, and just pull on their leg, get them to lead and stuff like that, and just do a little bit more. Then when you go back down to picking up their feet, something you can also do is wobble them a little bit and see if they try and balance, or see if they try and rip their foot down. If they wobble and they balance on three legs, that's good. You don't want them to sort of pull their foot out and just put it straight down.
If they pull that leg, do you let it go?
Well, you kind of wobble and feel for that first sign of a little bit of fight, and then just wait with them a little bit. Don't keep wobbling and create a big fight, but you're trying to sort of hold when they have a little wriggle and not let the foot go down. But you do it incrementally. You're not going to sort of do it all in one hit. As I say,
take your time.
Yeah, if I told you on a podcast to pick up the horse's foot and just restrict it with a rope until it stops fighting and you threw your foal over, then I'd be telling you the wrong thing. I may choose to do something like that, but I'd be very careful and I'd be very watchful of what's happening. But I'm not going to say to everyone, just try it. I'd rather say graded exposure, but before the farrier comes, you want to know you can hold that foot and actually you've got the foal at a stage that they're not going to pull it out. You've just got to add a bit more each session. So you might do a 10-minute session, stop, have a break, come back, do a 10-minute session, but each one of those sessions will add a bit more inertia, a bit more kind of a little bit more pressure, and then a bit more I can hold, and you don't need to put your foot down, because in case they get caught in a fence or anything, there is a point that they have to sort of say, I yield. I'm not. If I pull my foot, I'm going to hurt myself. So there's a point that they have to get to with that. It's your choice when you do that, but it's also your choice, before you get the farrier out. If you think this is how much pressure it's going to be to get the horse's feet trimmed, you've got to have them ready at that level for when the farrier comes.
So they can cope with it, okay. And is there anywhere that you should be holding them particularly, especially because a young horse might be quite sensitive to being grabbed around the ankle, but not so sensitive on the hoof?
Yeah, picking up the hoof is a good one to start with, but they do have to get used to the ankle grab as well, and that's where the ropes are really good. You just pull the rope down their leg, rub it around their legs, so they're actually getting that rope pulling on their leg and lifting it and stuff like that. I yield the horse's leg at the fetlock, and then as the foot picks up, the first pickup, but this is like the first pickups, I hold the base of their foot so they don't feel like they're grabbed, but then I'm actually wanting to not have to do that. I want to be able to just pick up anywhere and they're fine.
So go back to leading, do a bit of touch and go with the feet at the end of the leading, work on the leading a lot more. And then maybe when they understand that a bit of pressure is okay, you can give to it rather than pull back on it with the head. That might translate to the feet, which might give you a bit more scope to educate them with the feet. Yeah.
Okay. And one other little thing is a breeching rope. Put a breeching rope around their back end, have a fairly close hold on their nose, and rock them between a breeching rope and the halter, so they're like rocking backwards and forwards, and they're really soft with pressure. Any pressure you can put on them from anywhere and they yield softly to that pressure, they're not fighting it, is always going to help the mindset of what it needs to be to lead the feet up.
Just to put this all into context, very briefly, can you just describe how you used to pick up feet, one of the first lessons with young horses, because you had to get shoes on them, but once you started doing shoeing as the last lesson, you had a lot less problems, didn't you? The shoeing was when it's like any saying, don't tie your horse. The best way to teach a horse to tie up is don't tie it up, and same with putting shoes on horses. You're getting them to lead well, to pick up their feet well. So when you put the shoes on, there's not a big fight. Yeah. So the feet will come. Hope that helps to both of you. Thank you so much for the questions. We'll be back next week answering more.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, everybody.
The accurate insights and solutions that Mark Langley gives are at the forefront of emotive horsemanship globally. You can learn them for yourself through his supportive online membership. Check it out with a 7-day free trial. marklangley.com.au